Good morning, boys and girls. This is Kosala, also known as Marventus, wishing you all a very Merry Christmas. Now, here we are in one of my ladder games once again. This is a newbie disaster video where I get creamed. And the reason I get creamed is because I do horrendously bad scouting. Bad scouting, and as we know, it's very important to do good scouting, but I forget to do that, and therefore I die, and I die horribly, and that's just the way it is. So here I am going to be sharing some amusement with you. In the top left-hand corner, myself, Mr. Marventus, as the blue Zerg. In the bottom right-hand corner, we have the teal Protoss, Nataz, who is going to be the winner of this game today. So let's see how I get started. Now I know that I'm up against a Protoss, of course, because my loading screen told me so. Right, so here I am droning up to my 9 of 10 drones, and then popping up an Overlord. And let's see, in the meantime, our opponent is getting his first pylon up. He's got his drone count happening nicely, the first gateway on the way, and things look pretty much standard for the time being. I do enjoy this map. Pretty short rush distance, lots of ability to keep an eye on what's going on with the Zelnaga towers. Here comes my 10th drone to do some scouting. In the meantime, he's got one gateway here, he's got another gateway on the way there. 2 gateways now at 10 supplies. So far, I've got my spawning pool just coming up as well, and my first gas. And in the meantime, now my drone has arrived, and I can get my first round of scouting, of course, as normal, nothing weird. But I'm scooting around, I'm seeing the gateways, I'm seeing the early 2-gate push, so I'm thinking, okay, so there could be some zealots coming to harass me. It's possible. The first zealot is now on the way even. Right, and in the meantime, I am preparing for this by getting that spawning pool nice and early. I got it at 10 supply, from the looks of it, I think, actually. And my gas is pumping away as well. So far I'm actually adapting myself reasonably alright at this point. My spawning pool has gone up. I should have a queen on the way any second, along with my first couple of zerglings, which is kind of my standard opener. There we are, 4 zerglings and my queen out. In the meantime, my overlord is heading down here. Why is he doing that? I like to park an overlord somewhere in the corner of the base in case he forgets to build in that direction, so I can get a Nidus network up and running there, in order to provide some secondary scouting and some early harassment. In this particular case, this is a very, very small base area. It is hard to squeeze a Nidus network in here before anybody actually notices. My drones are getting harassed by 2 zealots running. Oh no, he headed off in completely the wrong direction, got stuck on a wall and butchered. There you go. Right, there you go. What's coming up here? We have another pylon going up here, and another 2 zealots coming out. So now, so far from this point onwards, I am now blind, because I've gone through my first round of scouting. My drone is dead. So at this point, I am responding with the Roach Warren, which is a reasonably good starter against any Protoss stuff, because Roaches are excellent. Roaches and Hydras are both excellent against gateway units, which tend to be what Protoss comes at you with. So far, the thinking is perfectly sound. Cybernetics core going up over there for our Protoss, along with his second gas. Now then, I've got my first 3 roaches popping out, and I am supply blocked. So it's time for another overlord. There it is, coming out now. Let's take a look at the drone count. I've got good droning happening there. 2 rows right already set to go. Let's take a look at his drone count. Slightly behind, but the income should be reasonably even. Yeah, it's more or less in the even area. His gas count is surprisingly far behind. He's not mining any gas. Doesn't appear to be mining much in the way of gas. There's one guy there. That's very interesting. But he's amassing himself a bit of a zealot army over here. So he's got five zealots on the field, and these are actually quite vicious units. They are extremely difficult to do anything with. You can kite them with roaches quite effectively, as I did in a nice little 2v2, which I'll be casting later. On that note, by the way, me and my 2v2 buddy have been doing quite a bit of 2v2 gaming, and winning quite a lot as well. So I'll be casting some interesting 2v2 games, where we've got a nice sort of combination going between the two of us. We're both playing Zerg. So here we are. The first 3 roaches are out. I'm starting to spread my creep. Roach Warren is up and doing nothing else. Now I seem to have slowed down a little bit in the production here. I wonder whether this is because I've suddenly become confused as to what to do next, or whether or not I'm saving up money for something. Which is hard to imagine because I've got 590 minerals over there already. I see a couple of spine crawlers are going down as base defense in case we get zealot rushed, which seems more and more likely right now because a bit of a zealot army building there. Now the second assimilator going down for our Protoss, along with another gateway. So let's see what we got here. We've got 1, 2, 3. We have 3 gateways and a cybernetics core. That is researching warp gate technology. My second gas going up now as well. And the spine crawler is just now being done. So I'm using the 1 queen now to both spread creep and inject lava, which is not the best method, and I've got an accumulation of some 650 resources. Now this is some sloppy resource management going on there right now for me. I'm taking up the layer simultaneously. It's possible, I'm thinking now, due to my considerable blindness that's happening over here, that I simply needed to take up to Mutus and go take a look and see what on earth was going on. Suddenly I lost a whole bunch of resources there. What did I spend that on, I wonder? Oh, we have a layer going up, roaches coming out. I had 600 there a moment ago and suddenly down to 200. Well, the first stalkers are now coming out for our Protoss opponent. Right, and an additional gateway popping out now as well. So now he's into the 4-gate right push. He's got the warp gate technology out. The stalkers are being warped in. It's starting to look like a bit of a posse. Now keeping in mind that I have seen none of this. If you go into my vision over here, it's now in the 9-minute marker. I've not scouted this, and this is quite poor. At this point, I really should have taken that overlord and suicided him into the base to find out what's going on. This is the first mistake I've done. So keep in mind that by the 2-3 minute marker, I was completely blind. And now we're now at the 9.5 minute marker, and I have seen nothing at all, whereas I had all the time in the world to push a Zergling up here, or even take an Overlord down and see what I needed to see. I have not actually done that. So extremely sloppy work. So only now do I see that a bit of a push has occurred. So I'm getting an Overseer out, I'm getting my spine up, my Spire up, and I'm getting my first expansion up now at the same time. Now our Protoss opponent still decides not to push out with this. I mean, he would have completely annihilated me with that army. But he hasn't scouted me either, so he doesn't know what to expect as yet. He's got even more pylons popping up there. Make sure he's not supply blocked, because he's getting there now towards the supply blocked stage. And a Twilight Council going down as well here in the back. So still I am completely clueless. I've got my hatchery up, I've got my upgrades coming for my roaches, and I've got a spire coming up. So very, 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 very late. 10.5 minutes into the game, and I really don't have a clue what's going on. And I should have had a much better idea than this. I should have gotten that expansion up earlier. Right, way, way earlier, because I was given all the time in the world to do that. So you get a whole bunch of mistakes happening over here. Really should have gotten that up at 14 supply, and I'm getting it up at 57 supply. That's just unbelievably bad. So now my Overlord is taking a little trip around the back here, my Overseer rather, to see if he can dump a Changeling. Let's see if that works. Still trying to find a free point where I'm not going to get my Changeling sighted. But that doesn't seem to be happening or working. I think I've managed to finally dump one over here. And he's got a probe standing by there as well for a potential expansion of his own while he pushes out, which is of course the right thing to do. We have an Overseer heading down to check whether anything's happening over here, and it turns out nothing is happening. That probe is doing nothing either, it's just sitting there preparing. Minerals are good enough. There it is. The moment he's got enough minerals, he pops down his expansion, which means he's probably getting ready to push out at this time. Here come his Stalkers to poke at my Overseer. And I do manage to get that away in time. So now I see his little Stoker ball. For the first time I'm able to see some element of his combination of units, and I can see Stalkers and Zealots there. I know that he's getting his expansion. which means it really is time for me to start amassing an army. But as you can see, I don't seem to be responding with very much of anything. He's getting his first couple of Void Rays up as well. Now, where did he plop the Stargate? I missed that somewhere. He's got 2 Stargates up there as well, right at the front, which I could easily have seen by running into that base. Once again, you know, the terrible scouting that completely screwed me in this. Scouting is absolutely essential, and I simply didn't get it done at all. I'm getting a pneumatized carapace upgrade, but I've got the Hydralisk Den out, and the Spire and the Roachborn out, but I'm not producing armies at this point. If you take a look at how my unit count is doing, or my mineral count is doing, my economy is actually doing reasonably alright, even though I haven't got my second hatchery droning up at all. So I could have taken a little pause here to get my my units properly up, but all I've got is that batch of roaches. Oh, actually didn't even realize I gotten that batch of roaches. There you go. Not entirely without units. I was busily fooling myself then. I've actually got a command group's worth of units out, so I wasn't thinking entirely wrongly. But I could have used some Hydras out for the DPS that was coming my way as well. I've got Nidus network building here. The plan was to try and pop down a Nidus worm here, but then the pylon landed right there. Right, making a mess out of those plans. That was really quite unfortunate. So let's take a look at the situation here. The army coming at me here eventually is at least that. We've got a command group's worth of Zealots and Stalkers. And I have a command group's worth of, well, hardly a command group's worth of Roaches. Now this is actually not enough to deal with that group we just highlighted before. I've got a whole bunch of Zerglings coming out, and they went straight into the Nidus network, but unfortunately I cannot harass effectively because there is no quiet place to put down a Nidus. And this is the thing with this map, really. It's very, very difficult to properly harass because there simply isn't anywhere to stick a Nidus network down. And there goes my Overseer, which kills the Nidus plans immediately. So now he's starting to push out. He's got his ball of Stalkers and Zealots, and he's starting to head out. And standing in his way is a little bear. Is that a bear? I don't know what that is, but we're going to call that a bear. He's going to sniff at the Stalker. Now, look at that. Stalker and bear, happy friends. Right, moving on, however, in my base, I've got just started on the droning on the hatchery, and I still can't believe how mind-bogglingly late I was with this. It's just incredibly late. Now, I have a Nidus network going up here instead, to try to pop out some Zerglings and rush them into the base over here while these guys scoot by. A perfectly excellent plan, but did not get executed very well because all of my roaches wound up dying over here instead. So let's see how this goes. So now my Lings are coming out here in preparation to run into his base, and his units are heading off into my base. And gets accosted by that one Ling over there. And now the roaches get into play, or some of the roaches certainly do. But there simply aren't enough here to really be of any great use. So we've got too many Zealots, we've got too many Stalkers, and I am not microing my roaches at all, as you can see, which is not very good at all. And they are getting completely annihilated by the Zealots, who hit very hard and very fast, along with the Stalkers providing some backup. So that did not help me at all. Now I'm out of an army. My Lings are now rushing into his base to see what we can do. And the question is, will we be able to do enough? Heading down here, taking care of the mineral line. And we do manage to do quite a nice bit of damage to the mineral line. But in the meantime, there simply isn't enough here in the home base to protect the situation. I've only got a minuscule row of roaches, who'd managed to take down a few of the Stalkers along with the Spinecrawler, but simply is a question of too little too late. And in the meantime over here the Void Rays are trying to take down my Lings, which are Void Rays are of course totally useless at taking down Lings, but nonetheless there's enough of them to make a mess out of my Ling approach. I took down the expansion, but there simply isn't enough going on, so there really is no other way for me to deal with this than to GG out of this game, since there is nothing more for me to do in the way of a comeback. Right, which is somewhat unfortunate. I mean, there's just that much left. Had I scouted this properly from the beginning and built the right army to counter this, you know, a good mixture of roaches and hydras, I would have had this and I would have been able to come back from this. But unfortunately, I made a bit of a mess out of it by simply not doing the right amount of preparation and being prepared and being ready with the right amount of units. So at this point, I've got a bunch of roaches. I've got a queen down. I've got my mineral line messed up. And I just decided at this point that there was no way to pop out of this, and I GG'd out of the game. Because the Voidies came next, and I've got absolutely nothing to deal with this Void Ray Rush that was the follow-up to the Gateway Rush. It was really quite unfortunate at the end of the day. And Void Rays are a problem for Zerg to deal with anyway if we can't scout them early enough, which we rarely can. So one heroic queen trying to do the best she can do, but this many Voidies, all charging up to full power, there really isn't a lot to do at all. So there we are, boys and girls. The whole point is to scout. You simply cannot spend 5 minutes not knowing what the opponent is doing. So there, from like the 2.5 minute marker down to the 9.5, 10 minute marker, I had absolutely no idea what my opponent was up to, and this right here is what he was up to. And especially when it comes to Protoss opponents, you've just got to know when they're amassing the Void Rays, because this is such a nuisance to any Zerg if they bury it in the corner of a base somewhere and pump these out, as you can see. Alright, well there we go, boys and girls. Keep an eye tuned for some 2v2 action coming in the days ahead. Should be great fun. Remember to like, dislike, comment, because that does help in the ratings. And have a lovely Christmas. Bye bye.